now see, it has been kind of crazy around here. We, well, for me, I finished my class, well, except for the last class, which is going to be like us showing our final projects and everything. So that doesn't happen for another 4 or 5 weeks. So we have to work on our projects this time. And so tomorrow I'll be taking some time to work on it and just finishing my spreads and finishing up stuff so I can actually show a final like pitch for a children's book for a publisher, which is really kind of terrifying because I didn't think I'd actually have this much done. And wow, like it's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. So I've been really busy with that, trying to get as much done so I can get feedback from my teacher. And then we traveled over the weekend. We went to the Omaha Zoo with the kids, and that's always a fun trip, but it's exhausting. I don't know if anybody's been to the Omaha Zoo, but it's huge. It takes more than a day to get through there. And when you have toddlers and infants, it's kind of like, oh, we were exhausted by the end of it. So we went with a bunch of friends, and so that was a lot of fun. But that meant a lot of time in the car, which means I finished a book and a half, and I have kind of been all over the place. I have a whole stack here of a haul. No wonder my husband's mad at me. Well, he's not mad, but he's just like, woman, stop buying books. And I have read how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books already this month. So April is going well. And the books though themselves are kind of like, here's one like 5 stars to 1 star. Like literally I have like every single rating. So I'm going to go through that, and then I'm going to go through my haul, and yeah, that's just what I'm going to do today. I have my coffee in an it's an add to cart kind of day, which is every day for me. Anyway, let's start. So I have my little list. I wrote it down because I'm not great with this stuff, but I finished The Project by Courtney Summers. I have read almost all of Courtney Summers' books now. I read 2 in the last 2 months. The Project was about a girl whose sister is stuck in a cult and she survives. It's really hard to explain without giving things away, but man, does Courtney Summers know how to write cult. I was involved in a religious cult for a while. I didn't join it until I was an adult, so I understand how you can get roped in when you're at your most vulnerable, and they definitely pulled me in because I had recently graduated from college and I had lost my entire support group. Like we were all spread out and I didn't know what I was doing, and I was, in a new relationship. Well, kind of new. We were 7 months, so kind of still new, and they got me, and through that I lost myself. And so I was seeing that in this book, and it was so good for that reason, and I gave it a 5 stars because it impacted me. I'm still thinking about it. I finished it the first day of the month, so I'm still thinking about it like 18 days later. It's one that I'm going to think about for a while. Courtney Summers just knows how to write, and so if you like to delve into kind of like the thinking of what a cult leader can do, it's a great one. It's a really great book, and it's got a mystery, and I just enjoyed it. I then read House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland, and this one was a book club pick for March for Meg with Books book club on her Patreon. However, she didn't have the live show until April the 8th, so I had a little extra time. And House of Hollow was kind of a dark fantasy, witchy story. And it was about a tale of sisters. It was one sister goes missing, and it's spooky. I think I gave it 4 stars. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed the characters, the story. I enjoyed learning the lore of the book. And that one was a great one, and I enjoyed that one, so I was really excited. I never would have picked it up otherwise, which is so funny because it seems like the books that I really like have like house of something in it, or just like house, So I'm gonna sit and look at all the books that have house in them at the end of the year and be like, oh, okay, is this a trend? Do I just like books because they have the word house in them? I don't know. The next one I read was The Burning Girls by C.J. Tudor. And I kid you not, I know it was about a mom who moved her and her daughter to a small little village in England, in London, not London, but in like Europe. I'm not really sure because I don't remember any of this book because it was so boring. And I gave it a 2 stars because it did keep me intrigued because I wanted to know what was going to happen. But then when the stuff did happen, I was like, why is this book getting such great ratings? And it's rated horror and I didn't see the horror in it. I don't know. It just wasn't for me, which is fine. A lot of people do like CJ Tudor. So I don't know. Maybe I read it at the wrong time. There was a moment where I wasn't feeling books as much. And then I finally finished Lone Women by Victor Laval, which I did give 4 stars. It was such a unique story. I loved that Victor Laval took Montana history with frontier women, historical, and added dark gothic fantasy element to it and like horror, because that survival of the fittest was hard for frontiers, and living in the prairie for myself, and I've traveled to Montana. I have family in Montana, so it's like I know the area. So it was really, he nailed it. And I think there were just some pacing issues for me that I got bored in the middle of the book and almost didn't. So it took me a lot longer. It took me about 3 weeks to read, which is not a normal thing for me. And so, yeah, I don't know. And so but I know a lot of people are loving it. It was a really good book. I loved the historical fantasy, dark grittiness of it. It was like Western mixed with horror, and it was great. I enjoyed it a lot. However, Devil House by John Darnielle, which was the next one I finished. I don't even know why I finished it. Honestly, it was 1 star. I see what the guy was trying to do. There were like snippets of text that were really impactful, and I was really enjoying it for about the 30% of the book. And then the rest went off the rails, not in a good way off the rails, because I love when books go off the rails, but this one just made no sense. He was trying to have some weird kind of conversation about true crime, and then he went into, I don't know, he went into medieval. I really don't know what he was trying to do with it, but nothing came together and none of it made sense. None of it made sense. Even the end where it was like, oh, that's what you were doing. It just didn't work for me. Just didn't work, which is okay. London Seance Society by Sarah Penner was the next one I read. London Seance Society was a girl's sister ends up murdered. Lena's sister ends up murdered, and then you're going back and forth between her point of view and this guy named Mr. Morley's point of view. Took me a second to think of his name, but I enjoyed it. It was, dark. It was historical. It was like a historical mystery. I think it was set in the early 1900s. And I just really enjoyed getting to know Lena as a character. I did not enjoy being in Mr. Morley's point of view. I found those parts boring. I wish we would have just stuck with Lena. But I did give it 3.5 stars because it was great. It was a great book. So, it was solid, but it didn't hit the 5-star mark. I would be interested in picking up The Last Apothecary by her because I do like how she writes characters. I like how she writes the history. So that was good. And then my final book that I finished over the weekend, The Twyford Code by Janice Hallett. Oh my gosh, I want to hug that book. I'm going to have to buy it. I checked that one out from the library, so it's back now because somebody else wants to read it, which totally get. How do I even describe this book? Mixed media, a teacher goes missing, there's a book, like a children's book that was written by this author, that these characters who are low income and aren't very educated think that they're trying to crack this code to find who knows. And I like, it hit hard. The book is, I read The Appeal by Janice Hallett back in February, and I gave it 2.5, 3 stars. I really liked the format, but some of the things didn't work for me. Like email in 2000, what was it? Whatever they were, like the email format wasn't quite up to snuff for me, and things didn't make sense. I didn't like any of the characters. I loved Steve Smithy in this, Mr. Smithy in this one. Loved the main character, and it was like iPhone recordings, so he was like recording iPhone recordings, and so I really enjoyed this one. It was great. Highly recommend. I already ordered her next book. I think that they're really, I would recommend reading Janice Hallett by like reading rather than like audio or anything, because it's just the way that she formats the books are really, really unique and really great. And I think it's a great experience. So I ordered her next one, Something Angels. I don't remember what it is, but I ordered it. I can't wait for it to come. I ordered it because I ordered it from the UK, so we'll see when it comes. Now, we ready for this major haul? I hope we are ready for this major haul. I said we ready. That was weird, but I didn't mean to. Sometimes I talk funny. Okay, let me move my watercolors that I grabbed. Okay, so this is my stack. Yeah, and it's really high. So I'm going to start with this one, The Seamstress of Sardinia by Bianca Pizzorno. I have no idea what this book was about. I picked it up because it said Seamstress of Sardinia, and I love sewing. And I got this from Costco. It was a Costco find. Another Costco find. Homecoming by Kate Morton. This one was supposed to be a murder mystery and like a true crime like mystery that has never been satisfactorily resolved. I don't know. The cover was beautiful. It sounded good. And yeah, I have no idea. But Liam Moriarty, who I love Big Little Lies from, called it a deliciously compelling. And I am one of the people who reads these little blurbs and is like, oh, hey, that's an author I like, so maybe I'll like this one. This one, Mrs. Caliban by Rachel Ingalls. I can't remember what this is supposed to be about, and I don't want to know because look at how creepy this is. This was a currently reading indie press list that we get for subscribing to Currently Reading Podcasts Patreon. And this one, like, they compared it to Comfort Me with Apples, which was a novella that I just adored. And so this one is like, how many pages is it? It's like 100 pages. So it's a little novella. I can't wait to read it because look at this creepy cover. It just, what is this even about? I think this came out in the 80s, 1983. So very excited, very backlist. Can't wait to read that one. This one was a Barnes & Noble find, The Hidden by Melanie Golding. I have been wanting to read this one for a while. I think it's supposed to be mermaids. I don't know, but it sounds great. Next one is another one from that same indie press list, Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. Cannot tell you what it's about. I know that this is a trilogy, and then apparently I'm going to want to pick up the rest of them, but I picked up the first one because I did. When did this one come out? A lot of these are 2014. So a lot of these are further backlisted. Not a lot of new releases in here, a couple, but not as many. Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. I have liked some of T. Kingfisher and some of it hasn't worked for me, but I enjoyed a lot of what I read from her last year. So I have heard that this one's really great for people who liked Legends and Lattes. I loved Legends and Lattes. So Nettle and Bone was one that I picked up finally off the Barnes & Noble rack. I was shopping with some friends and said, yeah, let's do it. This one, what was this one? This one was How to Not Drown in a Glass of Water by Angie Cruz, author of Dominicana. I can't remember why I picked this one up. I think this was another currently read. I am trying to I've been having kind of some reading like slumpage. So I'm trying to pick up books that are a little bit shorter and that are different. So this one, I'm not sure what this one is about, but I remember it sounded great. So this one's supposed to be really weird. And I guess it was on Obama's list, Mouth to Mouth by Antoine Wilson. So the cover just looked weird enough and very surreal. And I liked what it sounded about. Yeah. A propulsive novel in which a successful art dealer confesses the story of his rise to a former classmate in an airport bar. A story that begins with his rescue and resuscitation of a drowning man with whom he will become inextricably linked to disturbing ends. Okay, yeah, you have me. So that's what that one. I found this one, I think at a Target bin, A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon. It's a romance. I'm not quite sure what the romance was, but the cover got me. Like this is my trend for the year. The cover got me. And some have been very successful, some have been very unsuccessful. I need to stop cover buying. Anybody else, please tell me there is somebody else out there that's like, ooh, shiny, pretty cover, come to me. I laugh. Now this one, I can't wait to read. This is Chrysopia by Christine Stewart Nunez. Christine was one of my nearest and dearest to my heart's professor. This is her newest. I buy every single one of her poetry books. This is her newest one. And this is essays. And she taught me everything I know about nonfiction writing and poetry. I had another professor who did creative writing or like fiction writing, and I still hold them dear. They taught me a lot that I have taken on into writing, even for social media. And so I can't wait to read about this. I know that I think she wrote about her son in this. Her son has a form of autism that has epilepsy in it. So I can't wait to read this one. I hope it's really, well, I know it's really good, but I hope I love it, and I hope that I can recommend it to other people. But she has so many, Christine Stewart Nunez has so many good poetry books, and I cannot recommend them enough. I might be a little biased since she did teach me to write. The next one was a sketchbook composition studies for film. This one is basically all it is just compositions. This one has no words. It's for like studying compositions for my class, and yeah, I'm really trying to get better at compositions. I don't know. I love that composition. If I could draw something like that, that would be really awesome. So that one is sketchbook composition studies for film. The next one is The Girl I Am, Was, and Never Will Be, a speculative memoir of transracial adoption. So this one, I heard an interview with the author, Shannon Gibney, and it's her story. So like she takes her story and she's got essays about and they're fiction and nonfiction and some speculative in there about her journey as a biracial adoptee, and I think her parents were white, and so it's just her story of growing up and how sometimes adoption isn't always the cakewalk that we think it is. And so I don't know when I'm going to pick this one up because I have to be ready for memoirs. Memoirs are hard for me sometimes because they're hard. Like this is somebody's trauma in a book. So I'm excited to read it, but I want to make sure I read it at the right time. But look at that cover. Oh, the colors. I just love that. Love that painting. Oh, so great. Now this one is Le Petit Yvon. If I pronounced that correctly or not correctly, I don't remember because it has been years since I have taken French. It's by Nikki Orphanou, and the illustrator is Yvon Duke. Yvon actually came and guest spoke and answered questions for us in our class. And his work, he's the illustrator of this book. His work is just phenomenal. He does everything in painting. Like he paints all this. This is painted. And I am just obsessed with his style. I'm obsessed with the way that he goes about telling stories. And so I had to support him. And this book is in French. We'll see if I can actually read it. But I think it's supposed to be Baba Yaga's story. But I'm not positive. Oh, yeah, Baba Yaga's on the back. So, yeah, I'm really excited. So if you want to, go check out Yvon Duke's art. He's fantastic. Now, this one is a library book, but I'm going to buy it. So, The Creature Garden by Harry and Zana Goldhawk. And it is it's like a how-to. They do a lot of gouache and different medias, and it's just basically a how-to book on how to draw. But my son loves it, and so we've been pulling it out since I checked it out from the library. We've been pulling it out like every night. So that's one I'm gonna be buying because it's a great book for drawing. I love my drawing books. I keep wanting to do a whole vlog on drawing books, and I think I will. I just need to really decide what ones I want to do. The next one is Heather Fawcett's The Grace of Wild Things. I really hope I like this author. I bought an Encyclopedia of Fairies by her. We want to read Ember from her, Ember and the Ice Dragons. We have that downloaded on one of our audiobooks, and I heard this one's really good. It's about I don't really know. I think it was a witch that raises an orphan, and it sounded really great, and I really hope I like her because now I've got 2 of her books in my to be read pile. So yeah, this one is like the holy grail of color and light. So this is another one that I have been meaning to pick up forever, and I finally did for class because our teacher Beatrice Blue recommended it, and I'm excited to pull this out. But this one, The Color and Light by James Gurney, has been recommended over and over and over and over and over. It's like, get it. So I finally did, and I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to. Expressive Little Faces is the next one. My friend came to town and she had this book with her, and I was like, oh, this is great. It's just watercolor faces, and I love to use watercolor, and I just like to use these books as an easy way to draw when I am not feeling super inspired or have something. It really helps to do practices from books. I cannot recommend grabbing books that interest you in art enough if you want to do art. I'm watching my friend. She has never really drawn, and now she's doing some pretty great stuff just by picking up books and following along with the tutorials because they're great. And I have so many, and my son and I do them together. And then this one was one that we talked about in class, Everest. I think it's Sangma Francis and Lisk Fang. We talked about the art knit. I think it's paint, but it is beautiful illustrations. And that one was another one that I got as a reference for my children's books. It's gorgeous. The paper is nice. It is a stunning book. So, one more. I can't forget because I'm halfway through this book. Yoga Store Murder by Dan Morse. This is a true crime novel, and I had heard that it was really well written, and it is. Like, I don't want to put it down, but I need to take breaks from it because it's really hard. It has made me, it's one of those books where the author, Dan Morse, this is the only book he's written. He's a journalist, and I think he did such a good job not victim shaming, not, and that's a big thing in ethical true crime, is telling the stories in a way that is respectful to the victim and the victim's family. And I think that he really, really is worked hard to be very like, this is the facts, these are what happened, and I think the only times like he's talking about how somebody feels or thinks they should have done, or it's from interviews of people living, and so I really appreciate that. And it's not it's a hard one. It's like it's a hard story. And I'm familiar with the crime, so I know what happens, and I know what happens. But reading about it it's one of those things where you're like, okay, systems fail. How do we fix these systems? Because things like this should not happen. And how can we make it so it doesn't happen again? And that's kind of where I'm like looking at this from the lens of. And it was one that was actually recommended in the Currently Reading podcast group. And I thought, okay, if multiple people who aren't really into true crime are saying this one is ethical, I have really dug deep in myself to figure out why I like true crime, and because I kind of was just consuming so much of it that I'm really careful with what I pick up now, because I think being really cognizant of the people behind the cases is really important. And so, yeah, heavy, but it's written so well. Like, it's a book that I think is important. And this one was written, I think he got it out right after everything happened in 2013. So case was 2011 and then 2013. So I'm really reading a lot of books. I think, did Grace of Wild Things just come out? I think I'm not reading very many. Yeah, 2023. So I'm not reading too many like new releases. I can't remember when The Girl I Am Was and Never Will Be came out. I think that was 2022. So that's another newer, no, 2023. So this is another new release. Maybe that's why I haven't heard much about it, but I just love this cover. It's beautiful. Anyway, that is what's going on here. It's just a longer video. You're welcome, or you're not welcome if you're not. Excuse me, as my voice is starting to fry. Getting a little frog in my throat. I really appreciate you being here. I really appreciate you going through this. Is there anything that sounds like, okay, not that I did very good at summing up books. I am not great at that because I'm like, oh, am I going to give too much away? Oh man, I like going into books knowing very little. Like, there will be times where I'll like scrub forward just so I don't hear about somebody's, like, a book that I know I'm going to read soon. I won't listen to anything they have to say. I'll scrub through it. So I try to be cognizant of that in my reviews and things, because I know that it's something that I don't enjoy. So I'm like trying to be vague, but if am I being too vague? Let me know. But otherwise, is there anything that you've read in my pile, since so much of it is backlisted? I'd love to hear. If you liked this video, go ahead and hit like. Go ahead and subscribe if you'd like to subscribe. I really appreciate y'all being here with me. This has been such a fun journey so far, and it's still new. So have a great day, and yeah, that's what I got for you. Bye.